Have you seen our video on what is a subwoofer? It'll tell you the basics of the subwoofer. If you know what a subwoofer is and how it works, you want to decide if to buy one or make one. There are a lot of subwoofer brands in the market that you can get for your car or as part of your home theater system. However, these subwoofers are quite pricey and the value they offer can be way lower than the dough you have to part with. It's easier to buy a subwoofer if you don't have the time to play around with woodwork. But if you can and enjoy getting your hands greasy outdoor every now and then, making your own sub will be a good fit. It will save you some money, not to mention that you will have the opportunity to express your, maybe, dormant creative prowess. Begin with learning the qualities that make the best woofers and decide what you want to achieve with your own sub. Then, decide how much you are willing to spend on this project. The size and shape of your driver and the material used to build it will determine how well your subwoofer performs. Therefore, you have to make sure the specifications and style of the cabinet syncs with the speaker you are using. We'll talk about the various designs of cabinet that will suit the subwoofer driver you choose and how you can effectively set up your sub. Types of subwoofer enclosures. The sealed enclosure. This enclosure is one that both a beginner and a professional will enjoy. The simple design of this box and the ease of construction make it a subwoofer DIY beginner's go-to box. A professional will find the compact dimensions endearing, alongside the transient response and power handling capacity. Sealed boxes are smaller when compared with other box designs and they produce sounds that are relatively small. The driver you choose for a sealed box should possess the following qualities: long excursion, X-max ability, loose suspension to help restore displacement, and a low frequency resonance. However, the bass roll-off and sensitivity for a sealed box is mostly low compared to other types. The sealed box design also has a version that is bigger than the usual. This version is called Infinite Baffle and needs a driver built with a heavy mechanical suspension. The large space that comes with the Infinite Baffle is not suitable for most programs. The vented enclosure. Other names that describe this cabinet include ducted, ported, or bass reflex enclosure. The vented box is more renowned now because acoustic research has modeled an effective system to find the acoustic and mechanical parameters of a driver. We can also implement these parameters mathematically to suggest how a given box will behave. In this system, the excursion of a driver reduces as the frequency reduces so that there is an increase in pressure towards the air outside from the air inside the vent. The high-pressure air is designed to act as a real diaphragm built with physical materials at every frequency point. The advantages include relatively good cutoff frequency, some excursion that is reduced near the resonance frequency of the box, and generally better performance than a regular sealed enclosure will offer. In spite of its great performance level, the vented enclosure has a relatively poor transient response. Also, the driver in this system has no loading for acoustic tuning below the frequency set by the box. This means that when the frequency is below the resonance of the box, cone motion has no control and is dependent on the mechanical suspension of the subwoofer. The no control feature ruins the driver by causing it to bottom out. The transient response of this box type can be improved on if you take the time to choose your driver and tune the box. Again, you can avoid bottoming out by placing low-cut filter in front of your amplifier so that subsonic frequencies do not affect the speaker at cutoff low points. Generally, designing a vented box is more complex than designing a sealed box. You can use applications like Bass Box Pro to design the right enclosure. The Bandpass Enclosure. This kind of enclosure has many chambers that form a filter that is acoustic, and which pay attention to sound coming from a specified frequency range to increase the output. There are many designs of this enclosure type, but the most known among them is the fourth order. This box looks like the regular sealed box with the output channeled at the second chamber, with a vent facing the speaker. The purpose of the port is to increase how much sound the sub can pick in a narrow range while also doing the work of a low-pass filter in reducing any output of higher frequency than the needed base frequency. The output of the bandpass box is usually exposed to the noise coming from the vent of the box because all the output goes through the same opening. The transient response of a bandpass system is akin to that of a regular sealed enclosure, while the output has the tendency to surpass that of vented enclosures. The disadvantage of this type of enclosure is that they produce one-note sounds because their range tends to always peak. Other types of cabinet include the passive radiators enclosure, the transmission lines enclosure, the horn-loaded enclosure, the base actuators enclosure. Making subwoofer boxes. What you should know about the box shapes. One can say now that the ratio of the parts of the box does not necessarily affect how well a sub will perform. This is because when frequency wavelengths reflect, they produce standing waves. These wavelengths are as big as the distance from one parallel surface to another. The effect of wavelengths can be managed with the use of box shapes that have no parallel panels. Another way is to use proportions that help to reduce how much frequencies that work against themselves come together. The usual golden ratio used to work out proportions is 2.6, 1.6, 1, though they don't matter so much in the world of subs. If you have to make an enclosed box, you need to get the shape right as much as you need to make sure it is well braced, airtight, and sufficiently stuffed using damping materials. If your subwoofer box is freestanding, then it should fit properly into the room where it is placed. A built-in subwoofer is also impacted by the space where it is fitted into. Choose the right driver. When you begin the process of building your own subwoofer, the first point of call is to choose a driver. The driver you choose will decide the size of your subwoofer box and whether it will be passive or active. The driver also decides the depth of bass your woofer can pick. A driver that has a cone with a large surface area and X max will produce very deep bass with a lot of vibration, while a driver with 12 inches cone surface area will have less vibration. Also, you need to consider how well a driver is able to reproduce a signal that is sent to it. This is called the frequency response. This quality in the driver is enhanced by TILA, small parameters such as equivalent air compliance (VAS), resonance frequency (EFs) of the driver, and total Q of the driver at EFs QTs. Other parameters to consider are sensitivity and impedance, which affect the amplifier of your woofer. If a driver has double voice coils, it allows you to alter the way an amplifier interacts with impedance from the driver. For instance, a driver with two 2-ohm coils will produce a 4 ohms impedance if wired in series. However, wiring them in parallel will produce an impedance of 1 ohm. The best impedance is above 3 ohms to avoid straining the amplifier. How to build a sealed subwoofer system. Why choose it? The sealed subwoofer is the most straightforward of all the subwoofer systems. It comes with a single driver fixed at a corner of a box, and the box isn't huge. There are many reasons a sealed subwoofer system will work for you, especially if you are not very keen on high sounds. They are able to produce very low sounds even though they cut off at a higher end than other subwoofers. They have a better ability to overcome minor errors that might occur in the process of designing them and can easily pick up sounds in record time, called transient response. Which driver will work with it? The driver you choose for this box should have an EBP of 50 at best, though a lower EBP is more suitable. In certain situations, you may go with an EBP that is within the range of 50 and 100, for want of an alternative. Anything more will not work at all. The efficiency bandwidth product (EBP) value is determined by the value of the resonance frequency (FS) and the electrical charge (KES). While Fs is expected to be low, the KES is expected to be high. To find EBP, divide Fs by KES. How to build a sealed subwoofer box. Use the golden ratio to measure the size of your box if you have enough space. There are a number of ratios to use, one of them is the 1 to 1.12, 1.41. With this ratio, you can run an external dimension of 592 by 420 by 470 mm with MDF that is 18 mm thick. This dimension will build a box that has 92.67 L volume on the inside. If the volume of your box is low, then stuffing it with some suitable material will dampen the sound and increase its sound successfully by modifying the velocity of the sound in the box. Use silicone adhesive to bind the box at the joints, as this ensures that you have a sufficiently closed, airtight box. Next, stuff your box with good material to moderate sound and boost the volume. You can choose to only line the walls of your box, but stuffing the entire box will often produce a better result. Damping material made from fiberglass or Dacron will work just fine. Just make sure you don't have air leaks in any part of your box before you start stuffing the box. The first thing you should know if you wish to calculate the volume your box now has after damping is the resonant frequency. With an increased value for the box volume, you can find the current QTC, which shouldn't be very far from 0.7. This QTC should still work properly because you're using a sealed enclosure. Sealed subwoofers are the best to go for if this is the first time you are creating a subwoofer because of how easy and straightforward it is to build. Click on the link in the description to read more about how to build a subwoofer. If you've enjoyed this video, click the subscribe button below. Hit the notification bell so you'll know once we post a new video. Also, drop a comment below so we can know your thoughts. Finally, don't forget to check the description below for more details. Visit our site zimsubwoofers.com for more awesome subwoofer content like this.